Imagine for a moment crafting entire worlds, but not with, big elaborate sets or CGI,
Right.
not even a single camera shot. Instead, you're building everything, landscapes, characters, action, just with, well, maybe a whisper, a sound effect, even silence.
It's a fascinating idea, isn't it, that some of the most powerful stories, they aren't really seen. They're felt deeply, conjured up entirely inside your own head.
Exactly. It taps right into your imagination, makes you part of the storytelling.
Yeah, you become an active participant. When you take away the visual, you actually unlock something quite different, often maybe a more personal kind of immersion.
Absolutely. And that's what we're doing today, a deep dive into this world, the world of audio drama creation. Our mission really is to uncover some of the secrets. How do creators use only sound and maybe just as importantly, what you don't see to set up a story, build characters, drive the plot forward?
And create these really immersive, emotionally resonant narratives. It's quite an art.
It really is. So to help us understand it, we've looked at insights from some real masters of the craft.
Yeah, people with a lot of experience. We've got Gabriel Urbina, Fred from Final Rune Academy, Will Williams, Helen Perry from BBC Writers' Room Wales.
And a really practical example, too, Jonathan Smith's radio play, The World Walk. We'll dig into that.
Right. These folks are going to guide us through the unique challenges, but also the incredible freedoms you get when you're writing specifically for the ears.
Okay, so let's start with that core idea, the unexpected power of the unseen.
Right.
Because I think for a lot of people, the first thought about audio drama is, but you can't see anything.
And that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Ironically, that's where its biggest strength lies.
Helen Perry, she's a development producer at BBC Writers' Room Wales. She has this amazing quote. She calls radio CGI for the soul.
That's such a great line.
It is. What do you think makes that so powerful?
Well, it completely flips how we think about visual media, doesn't it? Perry says basically anything your imagination can cook up, they can build with sound.
I think, but it's more than just building visuals. This CGI for the soul means the image it creates is yours. It's completely unique to you.
Ah, right. Tailored to my own fears or experiences.
Exactly. Your fears, your hopes, your memories. That personal connection makes the emotional stakes feel incredibly high, sometimes much higher than even big-budget visual effects can manage, because those dictate exactly what you see.
Whereas with audio, you're not just seeing it in your head, you're kind of co-creating it.
You're an active participant. That's a really key distinction.
So it's not a limitation, it's actually liberating for everyone involved.
Definitely.
So if the audience is co-creating, how do writers make sure they're actually shown the story and not just, told about it? Gabriel Urbina from Wolf 359, he talks about relying on the listener's natural intuition and perception to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and that participation is absolutely vital for the emotional hit because you're the one imagining it. The story's events often land much harder.
It means the writer has to really trust the listener, implicitly. Urbina also brings up this interesting paradox. Some really complicated things are surprisingly easy to do in audio.
Okay, like what?
Like a space mutant plant monster.
Okay.
You can suggest that pretty effectively with squishes, weird growls, maybe some unsettling electronic sounds.
Right, I can picture, or rather hear that.
Exactly. But then something seemingly simple, like someone pointing a gun at someone else, that's actually really tricky.
Because it's so visual, all that silent tension.
Precisely. It's a visual moment. So how do you convey that tension, that threat, just with sound?
How do you do it?
Well, it's a brilliant challenge, right?
Yeah.
Creators have to focus on the implications, the effects of the action, not the visual itself.
Okay, so instead of seeing the gun...
You might hear the sharp click as the safety comes off.
Ooh, yeah.
Or a sudden, sharp intake of breath from the person being threatened. Maybe the subtle sound of shoes shifting on the floor as the aggressor takes a stance. Or even just the scrape of a chair as someone's forced back.
Ah, so it's those specific little sounds combined with the dialogue.
Exactly. Those sonic cues deliver the tension, the threat. They develop the scene, push the plot forward, all without a single picture. Your mind fills in the blanks, the gun, the look on their faces.
So it forces a different way of thinking about the consequences of an action or the feeling around it. Urbina mentions that radio often works best when the audience is a bit of a remove from what's happening, always filling in those blanks.
Right. And that filling in process is key.
Is that maybe why horror and comedy work so well in audio? But romance can be tough.
I think so, yeah. In horror, being at a remove lets your imagination create your worst nightmare. which is always scarier than what someone else puts on screen, right?
Definitely.
And comedy relies so much on timing, on wordplay that translates perfectly, but romance, it often hinges on physical intimacy. Kisses, a touch, a look.
Stuff that's hard to show without pictures. Urbina says you can't put kisses on the radio.
Uh-huh, yeah, exactly.
So how do you build those deep relationships? How do you plot their development if you can't show the kiss?
You show its effect, the impact it has on the characters, on the story. He uses the example of Cecil and Carlos in Welcome to Night Vale.
Oh, right.
Their relationship is huge, but it's mostly portrayed through how it affects other people, or through Cecil's own monologues, his feelings, his reactions. You don't often get scenes of them just being together visually, so to speak.
You hear about it, you feel its weight through how it changes things.
Exactly. You feel the love, the challenges, the devotion through all these other sonic cues and narrative choices. It's a really clever way to use the unseen to create genuine emotional depth and character growth. And that, in turn, drives the story.
So you're feeling the relationship even if you're not seeing the typical romantic moments? It underlines that idea. Show the consequences, the feeling, not just the action itself.
Right, like someone falling downstairs. You don't need to see it.
You just need the sound.
The clatter, the gasp, the thud, maybe a groan, then silence. That sequence of sounds tells the whole story, gives you the visceral impact. That is the plot point, delivered through pure sound.
Okay, so the unseen is powerful. But how do you actually start? How do you build that world, introduce the premise, get characters established, using only sound from minute one?
Well, Helen Perry's advice is key here. Start with a bang.
Action and intrigue in the first 3 minutes. No slow exposition dump.
Exactly. Hook them immediately. But how do you make that bang happen purely with sound? How do you start building what you called that sonic scaffolding?
Sonic scaffolding, I like that.
Yeah.
Like sound is the structure holding the story up for our imagination.
Precisely. The sounds aren't just background noise. They're the beams, the supports for the world, the characters, the whole emotional landscape. You guide the listener's imagination with sound.
So how do you create that initial sonic bang?
You jump right in. Use sound to immediately immerse the listener, get their mental picture started. And this is where Jonathan Smith's The World Walk is just brilliant.
Okay, tell us about it. How does it use sound right at the start?
Well, first, there's a brief announcer bit. It sets the intellectual premise.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on Albert Speer's diaries, Spandau Prison, non-chronological. That's the setup. The facts. But then the soundscape takes over completely to establish the emotional tone, the hook. You hear the Horst Wessel song.
Oh, wow. That's loaded.
Extremely. It's described as a highly evocative Nazi marching tune. Instantly, you get this complex mix, something that sounds uplifting, martial, but is tied to horrific atrocities. It sets the theme, the emotional depth, immediately.
So the premise isn't just stated, you feel it through that jarring, complex sound.
You feel it. It establishes this really unsettling thematic ground, and then that music slowly fades and crossfades into something else entirely.
Which is?
The sound of single, solitary, but regular footsteps on a gravel path.
Just footsteps.
Just footsteps, but mixed with birdsong, and crucially, Speer's own heavy breathing and his heartbeat.
Ah, so you're instantly in his head, in his space.
Yeah. Totally. You're plunged right into his reality, confined, anxious. You don't just know he's in prison. You hear his guilt, his struggle. It's all there in those simple sounds. They are the character at that moment.
That's amazing. The sounds aren't just background. They are the story, the endless trudging, the confinement. You feel it because you hear his breathing, his heartbeat, the repetition.
Exactly. You don't see the prison yard, but you feel how oppressive it is through those sounds. It's pure character and premise building, driving those initial emotional plot points of his isolation and internal conflict just through sound design.
And it's not just soundscapes, right? The voice itself is huge for a character.
Oh, absolutely. Helen Perry makes a really practical point. Limit the number of voices, maybe 6 max.
Why limit them?
Clarity. When you can't see who's talking, too many voices get confusing fast and make them distinct. Different ages, accents, maybe vocal tics, speech patterns.
Give each voice a unique sonic fingerprint.
Perfect way to put it, so the listener can easily follow who's who, track the plot, and connect with the characters.
Okay, so we've set the scene, introduced characters sonically. Now, how do we make things happen? Drive the plot, the action, using only audio.
This comes back to Gabriel Urbina's main rule, right for the ears.
Sounds simple, but what does it really mean in practice?
It means every plot point, every action, every reveal has to land sonically. You have to constantly think, how is my audience hearing this? How are they processing this information purely through sound? And does that sound move the story forward?
Right, which connects to what Fred from Final Rune Academy says about efficiency.
Yeah, his advice is gold. Every sound, every word must have a job, which is to move the story forward. No wasted audio real estate.
So, less is more. Omit needless words. Those aren't just writing tips, they're survival rules in audio drama.
Absolutely. Distillation is key. Think about it. A creaking door isn't just ambience, it's plot. Someone's entering or leaving. It builds suspense. It might be a clue.
And Helen Berry talks about using sound effects in music almost like costumes and props.
Exactly. A specific sound cue, maybe coins clinking, a distant siren, a particular type of music. It can instantly place a character, tell you what they're doing, hint at their status or mood, all without a word of description.
And this opens up huge possibilities, doesn't it? Urbina points out that creating, say, the fourth moon of the planet Zalandar 12 costs exactly the same in sound as creating a small-town courthouse.
Which is incredible. Budget-wise, sound offers immense freedom for settings and plot. Your story can go anywhere as long as you can create that convincing auditory world.
But that freedom could also be overwhelming. How do you structure a plot when anything is possible sonically?
Urbina has a fascinating technique for that. He calls it structure backwards.
Start at the end?
Sort of. You start with where you need the audience's understanding and emotions to end up for a particular scene or arc.
Okay.
Then you ask, what sequence of sounds, what dialogue, what silences will lead the listener to feel that specific emotion or understand that key bit of information that pushes the plot?
So you map the emotional or informational destination first, then build the sonic path to get there. That's clever.
It ensures every sound choice is purposeful, serving the overall journey of the plot and the listener's emotional arc.
He even says that sometimes setting limits, arbitrary restrictions, can actually make plotting easier, like with Wolf 359.
Right. Single location, isolated space station, only 4 main characters. Everything structured around audio diaries.
Seems like that would box you in.
You'd think so. But those limits force creativity. The writers had to find innovative ways to advance the plot, to reveal character, using only dialogue, sound effects, and trusting the listener to connect the dots.
So like a character's internal conflict?
Yeah.
You can't show a flashback.
Exactly. You have to convey it through maybe a tremor in their voice or the sound of a relevant background noise or just a really long pause. Those creative solutions often make the story more unique, more memorable.
And speaking of dialogue, Helen Perry warns against being too on the nose.
Crucial advice. Trust the listener. Use natural dialogue, pauses, silence, subtext.
Don't spell everything out.
Right. The audience is smart. Let them fill in some blanks. When you allow for that ambiguity, when they connect the dots using the subtle cues in the sound and the voices, the story often hits harder. It becomes more personal.
Because their interpretation is part of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
The unseen becomes powerful because their imagination is actively working with those subtle cues to fuel the plot in their own mind.
Exactly. It creates a much deeper engagement. They're not just passive receivers. They're actively piecing the story together, emotionally and intellectually. That keeps the plot moving forward for them.
Wow. What a journey we've taken through this. It really feels like we've uncovered how the lack of visuals isn't a weakness in audio drama. It's like its creative superpower.
Totally. By carefully crafting sound, using silence strategically, and having this profound trust in the listener's imagination.
Creators build these incredibly vivid worlds, deep characters, thrilling plots, all hitting you on this really profound emotional level precisely because you're not seeing it.
It's like painting with sound and silence on the canvas of the mind.
It really shows that the human imagination, when you give it the right sonic prompts, is maybe the most powerful special effect there is.
Absolutely. The next time you're listening to an audio drama, really pay attention to those quiet moments, those tiny sound cues. That's often where the real magic is happening, your own imagination kicking into high gear.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. How does knowing all this change how you'll listen to audio stories from now on? What actually happens in your head when a story is built only from sound?
And maybe take it a step further. If your only tools were sound, music, silence, what story would you want to tell?
That's a great thought to leave people with.
And we really encourage you to explore this world more. Seek out some classics. Willis Cooper, Lucille Fletcher, the Mercury Theater stuff is amazing.
Or modern shows like Wolf 359, The Thing on the Four-Wheel Board, Hitchhiker's Guide.
Fred also recommends checking out Hungry Earth, Tracks, Janus Descending, Passenger List, Brain Chemistry. There's so much incredible work out there.
Go experience it firsthand. Hear how these storytellers use sound and the unseen to make your imagination take flight.